Title: The Vanishing Passenger. The night was cold, wrapped in a dense, creeping fog as Rohan navigated the empty streets of New York City. The glow of his taxi's headlights barely cut through the mist when he spotted a lone figure standing near the entrance of an old cemetery. A woman, draped in a flowing vintage white dress, stepped forward, raising a pale hand. She slipped into the back seat without a sound. Her voice, soft and otherworldly, murmured an address on the far outskirts of town. As Rohan started driving, the scent of roses filled the air, sweet yet tinged with something he couldn't quite name. Through the rear-view mirror, he stole glances at his passenger. She sat motionless, gazing out of the window, her face unreadable. The air inside the cab felt unnaturally still. After a long, uneasy drive, they arrived at a destination, a decrepit mansion cloaked in shadows, its windows broken, its towering frame surrounded by skeletal trees. For the first time since entering the car, she spoke again. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, her whisper slicing through the silence. Rohan hesitated. $20. With deliberate slowness, she reached into her small purse and withdrew an old, crumpled bill. When her fingers brushed his palm, an icy jolt shot up his arm. A shiver crawled down his spine. He glanced at the bill, and his breath caught in his throat. It was dated 1922. His pulse pounded as he snapped his gaze back to the back seat. Empty. The woman had vanished. His breath quickened. He pushed open the taxi door and stepped out, his eyes locked on the decaying mansion. Swallowing his fear, he approached the warped wooden door and knocked hesitantly. After a long pause, it creaked open. An elderly man stood before him, deep wrinkles etched into his face, his eyes holding years of sorrow. "Can I help you?" the man asked, voice hoarse with age. Rohan described the woman, and instantly the old man's expression turned ashen. "That's my daughter, Evelyn," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. "She died in a car accident 50 years ago." A chill clawed at Rohan's spine. He stumbled backward, heart pounding, before turning and rushing back to his taxi. Hands trembling, he started the engine, only for his breath to catch once more. Resting neatly on the passenger seat was the old bill. The radio, which had been silent moments ago, crackled to life. Through the static, a whisper emerged. "Help me find my way home." His throat went dry. The air inside the taxi thickened, the temperature plummeting. The engine sputtered and died. Panic gripped him as he fumbled for his keys, but they refused to turn. In the mirror, a faint, ghostly outline shimmered in the back seat. Evelyn. Her eyes, hollow yet pleading, locked onto his. Forcing himself to breathe, Rohan swallowed his fear. "Where do you need to go?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The radio crackled again. This time, an address drifted through the static. Every instinct screamed at him to flee. But something deeper, something he couldn't explain, urged him forward. He shifted into gear and followed the directions through winding, mist-laden roads. The air felt heavy, the world around him eerily silent. At last, he arrived at a forgotten churchyard. The headlights illuminated an ancient cemetery, the gravestones bathed in moonlight. The taxi door creaked open on its own. A whisper, clearer now, brushed against his ear. "Thank you." And then, nothing. The oppressive chill lifted. The weight pressing against his chest eased. The taxi's engine roared back to life as if nothing had happened. Rohan stepped out, his breath unsteady. In the dim light, his gaze fell upon a single gravestone. The inscription read, "Evelyn Carter, gone but never lost." A single fresh rose lay atop the grave, glistening with dew. A strange peace settled over him. Whatever had bound Evelyn to this world had finally been lifted. He had helped her find her way home. Without another word, Rohan climbed back into his taxi and drove into the night, the fog slowly dissolving in his wake.